Synchronous replication, also known as metro availability, ensures that applications continue to work even when an entire site or data center becomes unavailable during a disaster. If you're considering a metro availability solution, good news. Nutanix X-Ray 3.5 comes with new tests written specifically for metro. In this tutorial, I will show you how to set up X-Ray to run these new tests. Let's get started. The first steps with any new deployment of X-Ray are to set the local secret store password, read and accept the EULA, choose to accept or decline X-Ray insights, and enter a product activation token. Let's take a look at how this cluster is configured. In a vSphere environment, metro availability is treated as a single cluster containing hosts in more than one physical data center. This configuration is sometimes referred to as a stretched cluster. The cluster contains hosts in more than one data center, and the cluster object is stretched between the two sites. Throughout this tutorial, I will refer to the host marked in blue as the active site, and the host marked in green as the standby site. Within this single stretched vSphere cluster, there are two Nutanix clusters. In the Prism interface for the active site, we can confirm that for the container we want to use for X-Ray, the role is active, and the metro remote site matches the Nutanix cluster for the standby site. Likewise, for the standby site, its role is standby, and the metro remote site matches the Nutanix cluster for the active site. We can also see that the status is enabled, and that the failover handling is being controlled by a witness VM. Whether the clustering software is Nutanix or any other vendor, the idea here is the same. We want to identify our failure domains, because we're going to treat each of them as a separate test target inside of X-Ray. Now that we've checked that the infrastructure is set up and ready, let's add it to X-Ray. We'll begin by adding the active site. As with any new test target, we'll start by giving the target a name and selecting the hypervisor management type. In this case, we are using a vSphere hypervisor with Nutanix clustering software. We'll need to add credentials for vSphere, the IPMI power management, and for Prism. We'll select the vSphere data center and cluster which match the cluster we'll be testing. We will also choose the Metro-enabled data store and the VM network. As you can see, X-Ray has detected all of the nodes in the vSphere cluster. X-Ray does not know which nodes belong to the active site and which nodes belong to the standby site. Since we are creating the target for the active site, we must delete the nodes at the standby site. Now we're left with only the set of nodes at the active site. When we run target validation, X-Ray performs checks to confirm that the target is ready to run new tests, including checks for connectivity, cluster cleanup, and VM deployment. While the validation is running, we can see new VMs being created. We can see that the VMs are running on each of the hosts on the active site, and none of the hosts on the standby site. After the target validation is finished, and the target is saved, the new test target for the active site is ready to go. Now, if you're only interested in running the standard X-Ray tests on the active site, such as the database colocation test or the HCI workflow test, you can stop here. If you're interested in running the new metro-specific tests, like the cross-site live migration test or the unplanned site failover test, we will now need to add a second target for the standby site. The first two steps here will be exactly the same as before, because the standby site is part of the same vSphere cluster. The difference is on step 3, where we choose the nodes or hosts to use. Rather than deleting the nodes at the standby site, we will instead delete the nodes at the active site. We can again run the target validation and see that the VMs are created on the standby site, but not on the active site. With the target saved, we now see the active site and standby site targets are ready to go. Now let's see these targets in action. I'm going to choose the cross-site live migration test from the test list. You may notice that the test target selection looks a bit different than what you may have seen before with other tests. That's because this test is written using a multi-target definition, which allows the author of tests like this one to control which steps to run on which target. I'll choose our active site as the primary target and our standby site as the secondary target. By clicking Run Tests, we're off to the races. In this case, the test demonstrates the performance effect of live migrating a virtual machine from the active site to the standby site, and back to the active site. Another test, called unplanned site failover, performs a real active site failure by automatically powering off all of the nodes on the active site using IPMI and waits for the VMs to restart automatically on the standby site. It's a fully automated demonstration of a disaster affecting the active site. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. X-Ray is available for download at nutanix.com/X-Ray. From all of us at Nutanix, thanks for watching.